Hello, my name's John Fitzpatrick. I drive a taxi in Dublin, Ireland. I've been very involved in the liberalisation of the taxi market here, very much against it, and I've learned a few lessons that I hope the taxi drivers, certainly from around Europe, um, can take heed from. But in this case, it's really aimed at the London taxi drivers who are having a protest tomorrow, the 21st of April. One of the issues that I learned here was very early on that it was called deregulation, but in fact it's not deregulation, it's really liberalisation of the market. We've never had as much regulation as we have now, and the cost of these regulations to the drivers have gone through the roof basically. The government calls it progress, we call it disaster. In terms of everybody else, if it employs here, it will eventually employ all across Europe. In the case of London taxi drivers, you buy expensive cars, you do the knowledge, you spend years struggling to study the knowledge and gain the licence, and eventually you must buy the black cab, which is, I'm sure you'll agree, is an expensive car. And then you have the others, all the rest, I won't name them, who can just buy any old heap and put it on the road and basically do the same business you can do without the restrictions of the meter in the car, which means they can charge whatever they want when they want. And that completely undermines the legitimate taxi trade. So for now, you need to look at what's happening, not as deregulation, but as liberalisation. That's the issue. It seems to be that the London taxi drivers are focusing their attention on the competition. And that's fair enough from a taxi driver's perspective. However, from a legal perspective, it has no basis in reality. Legally, they don't have to do anything. They can just exist, and unless the authorities are prepared to stop them, well then you have competition that can operate freely and without the restrictions of the regulations that you have to abide by. In my opinion, the best argument that you can put forward is that the competition doesn't have to comply with the regulations that while you do. That's the best argument to put forward. They have better trading conditions than you have. So the obvious option there is to remove the restrictions that apply to the black taxi cab trade, which in essence would mean, if that happened, in essence it would mean the end of the black cab as a vehicle, because obviously nobody's going to buy one because they won't need to. On the other hand, the authorities most likely won't do away with them. However, you could actually sue the London local authorities and the government for loss of earnings as a result of the trade that you would be losing to the competition, who can operate freely without any hindrance of the regulations. So really, that's the argument that you have. You need to argue that the regulations apply across the board, or they're removed from you, and that's the reality of it. In my case, when the market was being liberalised here, we tried Europe, but most of us operated as individuals. It seems like a bit like London, where we were splintered. The unions weren't actually unions. As individual business owners, the government has a legal obligation to consult with each individual taxi driver. That might sound onerous and inefficient, but the fact is that's the fact. You are all individual businesses, and the government has to consult with you in relation to it. They can dress it up and say that they're talking to the representative associations, and that's what they will tell Brussels, by the way, and that's what they've done in Ireland. However, the reality is not enough people in Dublin or Ireland complaint to Brussels. I think I was one of 2 people who made official complaints to Brussels, which meant it was just ignored. So as such, you really need to be aware of that. The next piece I want to speak to you about is the election that you have going on at the moment. Currently, you have a general election going on, and you could probably should target particular individuals, particularly marginal seats where the government, the current Tory representative could be in trouble, and you target that seat and basically support the opposition. In this case, I presume it would be Labour. You would then need to go to Labour, tell them that you're prepared to support the opposition to get elected, and that you will support them. You'll use the cards, you'll put the pictures on the cards, you'll put posters on the cards, you'll take out the cards, whatever you're entitled to do. I don't know what you're legally entitled to do over there. But certainly that you could drive around with a particular politician's poster on your car promoting that particular individual will extract some favours in your direction from that particular politician. However, if it's Labour, you really should get a policy document signed up to that they will implement after they get power. On the other hand, you might have to play your cards close to your chest and try the same with the Conservatives, as they could also be in power after the next election. But the reality is you haven't gone anywhere with them so far, so really you should target where it's possible to help Labour to win seats, probably in London and various places around the country. But wherever possible, people, taxi drivers around all the other major cities in the UK need to understand that if whatever is happening in London will eventually happen to them, and they may or may not like it. It's as simple as that. So they need to extract some concessions from those people now, and really now's the time to do it. In London's case, you really need to move fast, because London is obviously the target for these spots, and it wouldn't take too much to get concessions in just basically to insist that the Transport for London are going to actually implement and impose the regulations on the competition that you face. And that'll be fair enough. Really, that's all that needs to happen. They don't need to change the law, they don't need to have a huge consultation process, they just need to insist that Transport for London would implement regulations on the competition, and certainly arrest those who are operating outside of the regulations. So good luck with your protest tomorrow, and hopefully everything works out for you and you get some concessions. But hopefully you don't end up with what we have here in Ireland, which is taxi drivers struggling hand to mouth, and it's really difficult to try and earn a living. So good luck with the protest. Hope this helps us, and as I said, good luck with the protest. My name's Sean Fitzpatrick. Thanks for watching.